All right, well, let's get into the topic tonight. We have our first email question of the evening. This one is from Alan. How much does a police report matter if you end up going to court? The police report on my wreck clearly says the other driver was at fault, but his insurance company is acting like I was to blame for the whole thing. I think I've seen this happen before.
We've seen that a lot, Alan, and thank you for the question. But you know, typically speaking, police reports are not admissible in a civil case. If you have a traffic hearing and you have to call in evidence, well, then that's when the officer comes in and testifies if you get a ticket or not, or if the other person does. But when you're talking about liability, typically speaking, that is not an admissible report that's even considered by the court, and whenever it's seen a lot of the day to a jury typically. However, insurance companies are going to take their stand regardless of what a report says, whether they're placing all the blame on you or all the blame on someone else. An insurance company has the right to make a decision because that's just their right. Well, they have a right just like you have your own rights as well. And that's why you need an attorney to come to be your advocate, to go to bat for you. We see this a lot of times where insurance companies refuse and deny taking responsibility and accepting responsibility for the accident that their insurance caused, and that's why you have to have an attorney. So Ted, you want to jump in on this too, because you're seeing this a lot as well.
Right, and we see the flip side of that as well, where where the crash report will say that our client or the potential client is at fault for the accident, but in fact they're not, because by statute everyone has to cooperate and answer questions after an accident. And as a result, we have what's called the accident report privilege that Chris alluded to, which prevents that report itself from being admissible in a court of law from an evidentiary perspective. But that doesn't mean the facts that were obtained, the underlying facts, there'll be witnesses identified hopefully, and those people can be contacted and brought to the courtroom ultimately to present the evidence so that you can establish who is responsible for the accident. So the accident report is not the end-all be-all. It's a good first step in getting information so that you can start your claim, and it can be beneficial as part of that process. But at the end of the day, the case is going to rise and fall on the merits. So make sure and get someone to assist you with that, because it can be a difficult road to overturn if you get on the wrong path. Chris, we see that all the time when claims don't start out right. It's much more difficult to get them on the right track.
You know, Ted, there's a lot of times we have cases that come in and people, you know, whether they're at fault or not at fault, or whether they think they're at fault, they're not even certain what kind of injuries they have until later on in the case, and all of a sudden, you know, they have some significant injuries, but they were going to dismiss them earlier because they just wanted their car fixed. And the insurance company was really rude to them and denied coverage and said, you know what, go fix your own car. And a lot of times that's led them to seek an attorney to help them out because they wanted their car fixed. And all of a sudden they find out, hey, I have a bulging disc or some type of orthopedic issue that was not there before the accident but is there now.
Right.
So
you're going to have all your adrenaline pumping, and you know, you're at a heightened state, and a lot of times, like Chris said, the biggest concern is how I'm going to get my car fixed.
Yeah.
Because that's where your mind goes immediately. But oftentimes you will have that onset, and that's why it's real important. We've talked about on this show many times, is one of the benefits that you have on your automobile policy is your PIP no-fault benefits. And by statute, in order to have the maximum amount of that available to you, you have to go within the first 14 days to seek that medical treatment. So it's always good to go and get checked out and make sure everything's okay. A, so that you know that you're okay, and B, so that you don't jeopardize those benefits.